Welcome, everybody. It is me. It is the Cyber Warrior. This is CyberWarriorStudios, and I know what you're all here for. You're all here for another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour, and I promise it will be amazing, but this is what I need you to do first. First and foremost, you need to hit that like button, and you need to share this stream because we need to get more people in here. That's just the way it goes, all right? So the more people to join, the more interactive it is. Y'all know the deal. So do all that, and I promise we'll be back here in just a second. All right, it was like 10 seconds, 8 seconds, but either way, hey, we're back. Look, so with me today, so I am the Cyber Warrior, and with me today, I have the host of Security Unfiltered podcast, Joe Self. Joe, you were supposed to be on 2 weeks ago. We all know you had a huge family event go on. Tell us, Joe, what's going on in your life right now, man?
Yeah, I had my first kid unexpectedly, mind you, 2 weeks ago. So that was it's been a weird whirlwind, right? Like having your first kid. I mean, it's just insane.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's a feeling you never you never really get that feeling again. Your first child is an experience in and of itself. So going through that, being in content creation, being a full-time employee, it's a huge whirlwind of things going on. So how has that change kind of affected you right now in your day-to-day activities with work and your podcast and everything else?
Yeah. So, I learned years ago that it's really important for me to work very efficiently. And when I do work on something, I'm solely focused on that one thing to knock it out of the park on my first attempt, right then and there. And so now it's like even more important, right? Because I don't have hours of free time anymore, right? Like it's all filled up now. And so when it comes to work stuff, obviously between the hours of like 9 and we'll call it 5, I'm fully available for any calls, projects, things like that, right? But if it's not on my calendar, I'm more than likely not doing it. Um, with the podcast, I had the benefit of getting a backlog of episodes ready. So I have a couple months worth of content like ready to go. It's just about kind of editing it and slowly kind of chugging through that part of it rather than actually having to do recordings. But in a couple months when I'm out of content and I'm recording once again, it's going to be interesting. But luckily, my wife is at home now for at least the next 18 months, thankfully. So I could just hand her the baby and go do a podcast and come back.
Yeah, definitely. And that support system, that having someone there for you in our lives, is extremely huge. And it's something that a lot of people take for granted and don't understand is, whether you're a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home mom or whatever the case may be, or you're just on, paternity leave or whatever, having someone that supports you and it's like, you know what, I know this is important to you. Go through that. It might take you an hour or two, but when you come back, we'll, have family time or whatever the case may be. Now, it's a little easier to kind of separate that now with a newborn, just because it's what are they really going to do besides cry, eat, and sleep?
Right.
I mean, they really ain't playing with anything yet. So that's legitimately, it's like, look, I can't have crying during the podcast. Please give me an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, you do want to make sure you're there for all the moments too that you can be, when they start crawling or walking or talking or anything like that. It's huge. So yes, kudos to you. Hats off to you. Congratulations once again. That is definitely a huge experience that some people just will never experience. So to get to experience it, to get to be a father, is something to be proud of. So again, congratulations.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's definitely special. I've wanted to be a dad for quite a long time, and it's finally here. And now I'm just heavily sleep deprived, but I am happy I'm a dad.
Yeah, definitely. I hear you. It's something I've been through, man. Like 5 kids of my own.
Phew.
I know the feeling. And my support system, my wife, my kids too. On top of that, my oldest is 14, gonna be 15. You know, what they give to me in support of what I do and what I've been trying to build has been absolutely huge. Because beyond the full-time job, those that follow me know I'm doing like daily videos. They're not always long form, but still, I've got 2 different shows that I do, plus all this. So, my wife has designed some hoodies. We haven't put those back on the market, but it's been one of those things that I'm very. I could not ask for a better support system.
Yeah, if you don't have a really good, reliable support system, I mean, I feel like you can't even really be that successful in security if you don't have that built in. Because, um, when I started in security, that was around the same time when me and my wife started dating, and she was just very flexible. She understood that I was going after something that I loved, that I wanted to do, that I had been working for a long time, and so it made working those 80-hour weeks maybe just a little bit easier because I had someone that wasn't, pushing the buttons, forcing me to, go on a date or whatever it might be, right? Because maybe I'm just tired, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and it's definitely been an experience for me. Being in the military, I still studied when I was, not working and stuff like that. I've been deployed and all that, and my wife has always held it down. So I couldn't, like yourself. You just can't. With somebody that understands what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish is something that is very, very hard to come by. I do see some new people in chat that are very rarely here live. One of which I've never seen before. Master IT. Honestly, don't know who you are because I don't know that name. But hey, thanks for being here today. Carrie, Mrs. Tarver, Jenny, everybody else in chat. Thank you. Alana's here. So everybody else, thanks for joining today. Now, getting into it and getting into kind of the crux of what I want to talk about today. You have your own podcast. I have my own shows. What has being a podcast host really, especially in security, lent to you and your career, your brand, just kind of how you've done things? How has it helped you?
Yeah, that's a very good question. How much time do we got? like,
And look, it's my show. We can go and it's unfiltered. Say whatever you want. We're here for it. I'm here for the
cool.
do it.
Yeah, I think the hardest part, or at least one of the hardest things about getting started in this career field of security and kind of getting any sort of notoriety for yourself or just getting your own, name in the field, um, it's it's very difficult, right? And you're not really given a platform necessarily of being able to voice your opinion on different things. And your opinion may even be 100% correct. It may be something revolutionary that someone didn't think of a certain way and now it helps them be better in their own career, right? When you're working for a company, you really have a very small sphere of influence. And with that, it limits you with your career opportunities. With having a podcast and being able to have conversations with founders, investors, architects, CISOs, I mean, really everyone, pen testers, people that have hacked the US government in ways that like we couldn't even talk about on the podcast, right? Being able to talk to all those different people, it shows that, there's other skills to me other than what's on my resume. And then when we go into technical, it also validates what I have on my resume without me applying to a job, without me talking to an employer or anything like that. I've had the last couple jobs that I got were just strictly because someone listened to my podcast, was like, "Oh, we have an opening. I wonder if he'd be interested." And
Yeah.
they just reach out and make it happen. I mean, it's been the easiest interview processes like possible. All because they heard my podcast, they heard my opinion on things, my thought process on things, and they were like, "Oh, we need this guy internally."
Yeah.
And it's also saved me from a couple jobs that wouldn't have been fits.
Yeah, and this is very true, and it's one of those things, and that's kind of why I do my show, right? Because for me, look, through branding, through what I do, I've made a name for myself. I've made connections. I've got friends. I've got family. I've got a group of network of people that I could always reach out to. But for here, it's not about me. It's about the voices I bring on, which is why this is very important to let newcomers know. Like, if somebody asks you to be a guest on a show, go do it. Go do it. If you're told to social network and be on LinkedIn and put out posts and comments and things like that, go do it. It's because you may think you don't have anything to add to the conversation or add to the community, but the reality is you do. Like, you know something that someone doesn't or is afraid to say.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like it makes me kind of go back to something that I realized earlier on in my career. When you're nervous to do something, you're a little apprehensive to go down a certain path or take on, a different opportunity, right? I'll give you an example. Several years ago, I started a consulting company. I still have a consulting company. I don't do very much work through it, but it's there. If someone wants my consulting services, they can get them. And very surprisingly to me, within 30, 60 days, I had two customers, right? I went from zero to two customers and it was tens of thousands of dollars, right?
Mhm.
I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't. I really don't. I don't know, the whole legal documentation side of it. I don't know the contract side of it. I don't know how to negotiate a price. I don't know how to do 100% of the work that they want me to do. I actually have to lean on my network and my resources to learn it and find out and kind of work through that process. Really, what a pro services consultant would do, at their own company, right? Like they have a unique use case. What do? Well, they go and reach out to someone in their company. They go and reach out to their contacts within the network and see if someone knows how to do it and get their advice and see the pitfalls, right? I was really nervous going into it, but I told myself I couldn't back down because if I back down that one time, I would do it with everything else. And it's the same thing with security, right? And building a successful career. I wanted to get into cloud security for several years, and I was already in cybersecurity, but I had zero cloud security experience, like absolutely none, no certifications, nothing.
I still don't
And
have cloud security certifications.
they're they're good to get, not required.
Look, hey, I just play it by ear. You want to do that? I got you. Figure it out real quick.
Yeah.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, Google and GitHub get like 98% of the problems done.
Right? That's about it.
Right. But yeah,
Oh,
like it's when you're jumping into a new area that you don't know, you're going to be nervous. That's very natural, but it's about taking that first step and actually going through and following through with it that I've found to be really helpful, really successful.
yeah, and that's a big thing. Look, I'll be honest. I started when I retired out of the army. The first thing I wanted to do was start a company. This channel, before I rebranded, got a whole new domain, and did everything, was originally Scheller Cybersecurity. That was going to be my consulting company. I was going to build my brand through YouTube and social networks and everything else like that. My problem is, A, I suck at sales. B, I was in a really bad situation where I needed to provide for my family. And so running a business while working full time was just not on my to do list. And there are a few other things that went into it where I just realized it wasn't for me. As much as I would love to run an actual business, I understand businesses. I just realized it wasn't for me, at least at that time, not without partners or an actual backing of people. It wasn't something I could do on my own. So that's when I kind of was like, all right, and I rebranded and I became solely a content creator, and all of my LLC and everything is all through CyberWarriorStudios. And so it's all about the podcast life and YouTube life now.
Yeah, it's a grind too, like something that I feel like a lot of people don't expect going into it, or that are on the outside, they don't expect how much of a grind having a podcast or a YouTube channel actually is. Like it's for an entire year, for my whole first year of having the Security Unfiltered podcast, I would have to scramble to find guests. I mean, last
Oh,
minute, there was several episodes where it was just me talking, and I'm uncomfortable because I'm not talking to anyone. I figured no one would want to listen, right? And then somehow something just clicked. Maybe I got enough downloads, right? And a bunch of different people started reaching out, like, hey, I want to come on, or I have this person, you know, and I have a problem where I'll accept anyone when I need to have a better vetting process. And all of year two was nothing but me already having a guest list like figured out, you know.
lucky.
And now it's
Doing this 100 and some episodes and still don't have a guest list figured out.
well, I mean, you're
Uh,
doing a lot better than me, right? Like you're working with YouTube, you got your YouTube channel fully going. I have a YouTube channel, but I don't upload to it, right? Which I'm going to be changing pretty soon.
you
You know,
need
so
to, man. You need
I
to.
know, I know. It's funny because my mentor, my business mentor, is a guy that we connected on LinkedIn years ago. I mean, I don't even think I was in security at the time. And so we connected, and maybe 5, 6 years later, he reached out and said, hey, I saw that you have a podcast. Um, do you want to come over to Security Weekly and do a podcast over here? I said, okay, well, how bad could it be? But it was just from that connection that I had already built up over the years that he was like, oh, I know Joe can do it, and just threw me into that situation, which was great.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's one of the things, right? Like for me, when I look at newcomers and the reason I tell them content creation is good for them because whether it's a YouTube channel or a blog, to me, content creation isn't just YouTube, it isn't just TikTok, it isn't just Instagram, it isn't just, blogs. It is literally anything. You could make a post, one post on LinkedIn every day and do like I do because I do. I make one post on LinkedIn. Sometimes I comment on others. It really depends on how busy I am. Sometimes I don't, but I tag like 15 people that I know. And I'm like, we're bringing all these people along for the ride. They're either going to comment and share or they're not. But it's because like for me, again, half of my posts aren't about security. I ain't even gonna lie. Most of my posts, unless it's promoting the show, are motivational. But that's how I just keep promoting stuff on LinkedIn. I just keep tagging a bunch of people. And I've told people, tag me.
Hmm.
If I got time to comment, I'll comment. If not, at least it gets you a little bit of reach. Like, it's the way I look
And,
at things.
and have you seen that your interactions or your views grow over time with that?
If you do it consistently, and I don't mean tag people consistently, I mean post consistently. So there's a trick to LinkedIn, and actually, it's most social platforms. And actually, Mike Miller, who is huge on LinkedIn and in the cybersecurity space, me and him had a conversation. He understands the algorithm a lot better than I do. And it's not necessarily so, like, even though I post every day and I tag all these people, I'm up to like my impressions are at like 10,000 people will see it. But if I don't post that weekend, so like tomorrow and Sunday, if I don't post anything, which more than likely I won't, my impressions will drop to like 3,000.
Hmm.
You legitimately have to post and comment on things every day. Well, guess what? I have this thing called a life and a family
Right.
and shit I need to do. Um, no, my life is not controlled by LinkedIn. But this is where your community comes into play. And this is why I tell people you have to have a community. Me, I call them my warriors. Every single one of them. They're my family. They're my warriors. They will always do what's best for the community. Andrea, who's been on the show, Miss Tarver, John Good, Cyber Danny, Cyber Dancer Danny, Javier, all these people, they interact, they comment, they share, they repost, they do all these different things. So you know what? At the end of the day, as long as I get my point heard by at least one person, it's all that matters to me. And that's all it takes is one person to see it. Andrea was actually, I'll be honest, it was Miss Harvard that made a huge impression on me when she came on the show. And then Andrea came on like a week or two later. And I've had nothing but respect for both of them and been like, you know what? Hey, y'all need to, someone please hire these people. Like,
Hmm.
I'm begging you. But like me and you talked about, it's the newcomers are a lot harder to get seen and get positions than it is to put in a word for somebody that's experienced. So hopefully we can change that in the industry.
Yeah, I think part of it too, and I talk about this a little bit on my podcast, is new people, they are nervous with connecting with people on LinkedIn. Like they feel like they actually have to know the person, that they're going to be looked at really weird or really poorly for adding someone to connect when they don't know them. Like there's I mean thousands of people that I don't know but I'm connected with on LinkedIn. But you know what? It makes it a lot easier if I'm already connected with them to start a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Like we're already connected. Let's find something in common. I connected with you because we probably have something in common.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I've done it when I was retiring out of the army. I legitimately, when they said, "Hey, you're probably going to get retired," I said, "Bet." Went on LinkedIn. Anyone that had CISO, CEO, security director, security manager, or cybersecurity anywhere in their headline or job position, connect, 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 connect. And me, I didn't send a single message.
Hmm. Yeah, I
I
don't
literally
either.
just connected them all. I was just like, let's just go. We'll have at it. Whoever connects with me, we'll start a dialogue. And that's literally what's gotten me two of the positions in my career was I made a connection, actually three technically. I made a connection and was like, hey, this is what's going on. This is where I'm at. I want to let you know I really like what you're doing. So when the time comes, I'll be looking for work. I may apply, I may not. I just wanted to, see what you got going on. I see you're a veteran also. I developed a rapport. And then when it came time for me to apply for work, I reached back out to him. And I was like, hey, I'm retiring in like 3 months. You got anything? He goes, nah, man, I'm sorry. All right, cool. No problem. We still continue to talk. And then lo and behold, less than a year later, I had an interview with the company this guy worked for. And he didn't even want to interview me because he's like, I already know him. You're good.
Yeah, like a part of it too that I feel like people sometimes or somewhat overlook is the whole aspect of kind of like almost, you know, what's the right word? Like getting, I don't know, laid off proof, right? Or whatever it might be, right? Like you can be laid off by a company, but how quickly can you find that next role? How quickly can you find, that next thing? How easy is it going to be for you? In security, typically when you're a security professional, it's a little bit easier than other fields, right? Because there's such a high demand for our
Yeah.
profession, especially if you have a high in demand skill set within security that's already in high demand. It's not going to take very long. Well,
Yeah.
not very long could be a couple months, right? I have a friend that was laid off at the beginning of last year, and it took him, I think, 2.5, maybe 3 months to find a job. And he's a skilled security guy.
And
Like
that's two
he's,
missed mortgages, two missed rent payments, two missed electric bills, two missed whatever.
yeah. He
Just
said that his savings was completely blown out, completely
yeah.
diminished. Just from that. Did he find a job? Yes. Was it through a connection? Yes. But, it could have been a little bit quicker, and he even admits it, if he would have done a little bit better job of networking and meeting people and getting to know people.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things, the job, um, I'm leaving a company. This is my last day at an organization. Um, and that's how I got the job there. Actually, the job I got now, I ain't gonna lie. Well, my last like 3 or 4 jobs have all been, hey, I'm leaving. You got a job? Or, X, Y, and Z happened. You got a job? Or this happened. You
Hmm.
got a job? Or this happened. That's all it was. It was never very, except for my first job out of the army, the rest were basically, hey, I like what you have to offer. You want to work here? Yep, I'm coming.
Yeah. And I think another facet of it is also like being yourself. You know,
Yep.
I've been mentoring someone who, when we started, he was really just starting out in his career. And me, the directors, the VPs, the managers, really the happy hour was open to anyone that wanted to go. But managers, VPs, directors, they all went every single time, every single week. And
I'm
this new
there.
guy, right? That's my mentality, right? Because it's a free happy hour that the VP is paying for.
Yep.
Like I don't have to worry about it. And this new guy, he didn't want to go because he felt like it was out of his character, like he had to be someone else. I'm like, do you think I'm anyone different here than I am outside? Like, me outside. Am I different? He said, well, no, but I feel like I would have to be. I'm like, you don't. You just have to be able to hold your liquor and talk to people. That's all you got
Yep.
to be able to do. If you drink too much, go get a glass of water. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. And that's the big thing. I really, I'm a big proponent of be yourself always. Be authentic, be you. You know, People who know me know I drink. Now, I've cut back significantly due to some issues I had, but I drink and I love beer. I love having a drink every once in a while. I love drinking for the show, hence the show. Mom's yelled at me, but guess what? It's my show. I'm gonna do what I do. It's the whole point to security. Happy hour. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I have a shirt like this for a reason because you come for the conversation or come for the beer, stay for the conversation.
Right.
It is what it is. But I just look at it and I'm like, I've never once gone into a situation where I didn't feel like I could be myself. If I piss some people off, okay. Like I've never been afraid to be me because I get it. There are certain situations with certain people where if they're themselves, it ain't just pissing a few people off, you're probably pissing everybody off.
Yeah.
And it's usually for some bullshit. It legitimately is for some bullshit. It's for no real reason. Um, but the reality of it is, if you can't be yourself, you don't need to be there. That's the way I look at it. If you can't be yourself, go find yourself another job.
Yeah. I literally don't know how to be anyone else.
Me
Like
neither. I
I
mean,
I
I
really don't.
tried. I tried. I tried to tone it down. I tried to like beat it. No, that ain't me. I'm energetic. I'm motivated. I'm going to inspire. We're just running with it. Screw it. I'll take on my wrestling persona that Chris Cochran gave me in Hacker Valley. We're going with it. That's who I am. That's just who I'm always going to be. I am the
Yeah.
cyber warrior. There, don't even call me anything else. Okay, but this is who I am.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. Like I had a boss that like tried to, I guess, kind of change who I am or how I am, right? Try to turn me into a morning person when I'm not. And I mean, I'm the farthest thing from a morning person. So having a little kid is like, I mean, it's just torture for me, you know? And this guy would try to have me like come into the office by like 8 when the phone lines didn't even open until 9. And I'm just sitting here like, well, what am I going to do for an hour? Like, what do you want me to do? So I just woke up an hour early for nothing. And now I'm pissed off because I didn't
Yep.
get enough sleep. It's a cycle.
I ended up. You, I've learned to become a morning person, and it wasn't because of kids. It wasn't because of anything else. It was legitimately just because there's two ways I operate. I either stay up all night and then around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I get my wind and I will knock out every task, every work assigned to me in 2 hours and then have nothing left to do for the rest of the day. Or I wake up early. I'm actually a functional human being. It took me years to figure that out. But if I actually wake up early, work out, and get a shower, I'm in really good shape. Now working out hasn't happened because of my physical issues, but yeah, that's what I learned. So For me, it all depends. But I know when I was in the Army going through my tech school, my SGL, our platoon leader or whatever, realized that his dumbass wasn't waking up early. So he was like, hey, homie, you're on night shift at the Air Force Det. Don't come to PT formation. Don't do this or this. You literally show up, go there, and you're okay. And I was like, bet I'm out. But that's a boss. That's a leader that knows his people and understands that, like, there are certain situations, especially me being prior enlisted. I was an E5. It was just, hey, you don't go. Just go. Just once you start class, we'll talk. But until then, just go here. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
works for me. Kick my feet up. I watched every episode of Power Rangers, literally from episode 1 through all the crappy seasons they've come out with, all the way through.
Yeah, you need, I mean, at least for me, I need a manager that is very flexible, willing to adjust and change plans and things like that. And you would think like, oh, that must be very common in security. It's not. It's really not. People
Too
do
many
not
old heads.
want to yeah, people don't want to change. I worked for a place and I sat right next to my manager, and we were in a small room. It was a sock. I sat right next to him, and he would criticize me if I spent too much time on Googling things. Yeah, and I'm sitting here like,
I quit.
what do you want me to do? Right. That's what happened, because it was like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? He goes, oh, you should be focused on, your projects. I was like, okay, my projects don't start till January. We literally just talked about it. It's October. And he's like, well, you need to be reading the manuals. You need to be going through that 500-page logarithm, manual that they have. You need to be going through. I'm like, dude, no, like I'm not doing that.
Dude, logarithm, I learned on the
YouTube will
fly.
teach me more.
Yeah. I learned logarithm on the fly. I think we had a class. I think we had an engineer back when I was working for an MSSP. They were migrating from McAfee ESM to logarithm. And so they were like, hey, we're going to bring you in. Dude, I literally learned the entire back end of that thing just by someone going, hey, this is what we're going to do. All right, cool. What's all this do? All right, so this does this, this does this. All right, I'll figure it out. Let's go with it, homie. Let's go. Let's run.
Yeah. Yeah, I learned it a very similar way and just taking insane amounts of notes. Like I still have those OneNote notes because when I'm learning something, I've found the best way to learn is to just study it, write it down, review it, and then do it on your own.
And then teach it.
Yeah. Got to teach it.
Which is where content creation comes into play. And I know we keep getting off kind of on tangents of what this episode was supposed to be about, but that's where content creation comes into play. Because take, for instance, Kali Purple. Kali Purple just came out this year. Now, I have not touched a technical video since I finished up my Linux Basics for Hackers book. And I seen this come out, and they were like, hey, we got tools. It's sorted by NIST. And I was like, see what it has to offer. So this weekend, I'll be digging into all the tools. But I've already seen one tool that I've never heard of, and it's Tiger. And unlike some of the Kali tools where it gives you a little pop-up and it'll tell you what it does, this one, because it's just a Linux command, it was literally no pop-up. And I was like, I ain't never heard of this. Did a quick Google search. What does this do? And it's something for Unix. And I was like, to Google we go this weekend. I will figure it out.
We're learning.
But that's, to me, I'm going to learn it. I'm going to teach it and learn it because in my content, and I recommend this for every content creator that is new to the industry. I'm not talking experienced veterans that's been doing this shit for 1,000 years. I am talking new to the industry. Do it like me. Show your mistakes and how you fix them. Because all these people will edit their videos down to these minute spaces. Look, unless you're trying to be huge on YouTube and want 1 million people to see your content, do it your way. Show the mistakes, show how you fixed it, and post it. Because then they're seeing your process so that when you go for a job, you're like, yeah, I got a YouTube channel, check it out. And they can see everything you're doing. Blog posts, same way. If it's you don't want your face and your what you did on YouTube, post a blog about it. Write about it on LinkedIn. Write a Twitter post, or they do news things now. I
Hmm.
mean, Mike Miller's been able to write his essays from LinkedIn on Twitter. So,
Yeah.
just make it happen.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point that you make, is actually like showing and kind of embracing your own mistakes. When I was getting my master's, I had to do some project that I came up with, of like hacking Bluetooth. I think it was like the same way on Android and iPhone,
Yeah,
right? And
it's like blue
I
smoke.
was having massive amounts of issues of getting the emulator for the Android to work. And I went on YouTube, and this guy got me probably, I don't know, 80% of the way there. And the other 20% I figured out, but he was completely missing it in his video. And people were asking about it, like, this part doesn't make sense because it feels like you're missing steps.
Yeah.
And I posted a comment and I gave exactly what to do. I mean, it was like, 3 sentences, like, do this, go here, check this, do that. And like everyone, like that comment got more likes than his actual video, because everyone had the same problem and this guy was not responding.
And that's the thing. Like, so I found out, I didn't realize it until I was on the phone with someone. I think it was earlier this week. I don't know. I was talking about my social media content with somebody, my YouTube content. And I went through and looked at my highest viewed video, I think all time. I might be wrong, but I think it's all time. And it is literally the security onion video I did. And it might have been the installation. I can't remember the exact title. But I posted that in 2021, I believe, because I had the actual one of the maintainers of Security Onion on the show. And it's got over 17,000 views. What I did not realize was how many comments it actually had. And funny enough, I have responded to every single one. Every one. And that's the thing, is keeping up with your community and the people that interact with you.
Right.
Now, on my shorts, I've had some trolls and I've had some other people that I look at and I go, I really don't know how to respond to this. I'm gonna leave it there. I don't know what to say. It could just stay. But the trolls and stuff, I just kind of let go. But yeah, I literally like 17,000 because I do things differently. Security Onion has their own YouTube channel. Yet
Hmm.
I'm getting people learning how to install YouTube from my video. That is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Utterly
it's
amazing.
about it's about like also providing, good content, good quality content. Like that's what that is, like s- that's really interesting that Security Onion has less, I guess, less views
I
on
don't
that
know if they
specific
have less
area than
views. I don't know. I haven't gone to look. I
but
just
yours is the
know
preferred content.
I'm absolutely blown away that like when people search Security Onion install, they're coming to my video going, let's watch
Hmm.
this homie. Let's figure out what he knows. And I'm like, all right, cool. This is how we do it, buddy.
Yeah.
But I put my mistakes in there. And like when people like somebody tried correcting something I did, I'm like, no, dude, you're wrong. I actually did it right because it works. Like, I don't know what you were looking for, but this is how it works. And yeah, it's crazy because I literally go through, I put my mistakes out there. I'm like, oh shit, this ain't working. Hey guys, let's figure out why this didn't work. Oh, we got to add this or do that or do this. And that's how I do things.
Hmm.
I've done ethical hacking videos. I've done videos on retired hack the box boxes. I've done other videos and literally put in there all my mistakes. I don't cut them out. The only time I cut out my mistakes, you will never see that video because it usually means that it took me over an hour to figure out what the hell I did wrong. And so you're not going to see it because if it took me that long, I'm going to re-record. I'm going to put the mistake in there, but then I'm going to know the fix right away.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like
Griffin was there for my live tech Tuesday. Oh, that was fun. That was that was entertaining.
yeah.
I've done that. But yeah, man. So Security Unfiltered, and I got to be honest, right? I saw your podcast. I'm not a big podcast person. Like I don't listen to a lot just because I want to be 100% attentive. When I'm driving, if I'm 100% attentive to a podcast, I'm not attentive to the road because I'm listening to what's going on the
Hmm.
radio. And if I'm working, so it makes it really hard for me. What my wife can do that, I can't. So I try to listen to episodes here or there of different podcasts, but I have never heard yours. I ain't gonna lie, I never had. I just knew you put out a security podcast, and everybody said it was great. So I need to know, and I want everybody here to know because they probably don't know anything about your podcast. What exactly is Security Unfiltered besides unfiltered?
Yeah, I used to listen to a lot of podcasts and I felt like they were overly edited, and I really hate that personally because I feel like I'm missing out on the conversation. I want to hear that conversation up front, right? And so with my podcast, I want to make sure that there's right around no editing. There's no scripted questions. I bring on experts. We talk about their background, how they got into security. Maybe there's some things that they wish that they would have done that they didn't do. And then we talk about modern day topics. I brought on an AI researcher recently, and we talked about ChatGPT. He works for Rapid7. We didn't even talk about Rapid7. All that we talked about was AI the entire time, you
Nice.
know? And it's just about bringing people on, having a conversation like we would if we met up at a bar, was talking security at a bar over some drinks, right? Like that. I want that feel for my audience.
Oh, so me and you were the same. That's why we get along so well, because that's
Yeah,
the whole point of this show.
yeah,
I love that. I love that.
yeah. I think it's an interesting take, and I feel like my guests appreciate it, because I don't have any scripted questions or anything like that. Like I do everything, off cuff, right? Like just figuring it out as we go live, and I'm not cutting anything out. I'm not editing anything. The only time I do it is if I have, a person on with a clearance and they say something they shouldn't, and afterwards they're like, "Oh, can you cut this out?" It's like, yeah, I feel like not infringing on the government's classified material. Let's cut that out and
Yeah.
not go to court with the government.
That might be bad.
Yeah, I'd
Joe, we need
prefer
to
not to get
confiscate your
suicided.
computer, your phone, all your hard drives. We need to confiscate everything.
Yeah, I do not want to get suicided anytime soon.
Love it. Yo, hey, Griffin, my boy Griffin. So he been on my show. Griffin Infosec, great guy. He said he's more than happy to come on your show. So once you get settled and you're willing to have more guests on and start recording again, please hit him up, bring him on. Great person to have on. I'll get you
Absolutely.
guys connected if you're not connected already.
Okay.
I'll make sure he reaches out. But yeah, I think that's amazing because that was the premise of my show. Was I didn't want anybody to feel like they were in a professional setting where they had to be professional, where, oh, I can't say this. Like I have literally had people come on saying, "Can I swear?" I'm like, "Have you watched a single episode and seen what comes out of my mouth or heard what comes out of my mouth?"
Yeah.
No. All right, we need to catch you up. Let's
Yeah.
let's get you caught up here because I say everything I want to say. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't like overly produced podcasts, or
Right?
interviews just overall. I think Darknet Diaries is the exception in my opinion because of the way that he does it, the way that he tells the story. That like how can you not be captivated by Jack Resider's storytelling, right? But other podcasts out there that, you know, it, I was listening to a podcast. The guest was from Microsoft, and they were getting into the weeds. And then as soon as the stuff was getting good, where I was actually starting to learn, like they would edit it, go to the next question. It's like, guys, come on. Like now I want to hear the cuts.
Yeah, I do. Darknet Diaries. I gotta be honest. I think that was one of the first cybersecurity podcasts I ever listened to.
Yeah. Same for me.
That and Hacker Valley Studio. So prior to them coming out with a bunch of shows, prior to them becoming Hacker Valley Media, I met Chris Cochran at Sands conference
Hmm.
back in like January or February 2020, before COVID and all the shutdowns and pandemic and all that. Great guy, love talking to him. Found out he had his own podcast, and I started listening to it. Now don't listen to it as often as I'd like to. Again, this goes back to what me and you talked about just now, is I'm not real big on listening because I want to be attentive. And if I'm attentive, it takes away from my work. And so those are the first two security podcasts I ever listened to, was Darknet and Hacker Valley Studio.
Yeah, those are, I mean, two of the best out there for sure. You know, Chris is awesome. Like I love
Such a great
talking
guy.
with Chris. So much to learn from him. You know, like the
Do
guy
you
has a
watch
wealth of
Textual
knowledge.
Chatter?
No, I do
You what
not.
or not Textual Chatter? What is Textual Chatter? Is another YouTube and Instagram person. No, what it? Fuck, I can't think of his new show. Technically Divided. That's the new show they
Oh,
came out with.
I haven't checked it out yet.
Oh, you gotta watch Technically Divided. Chris and Ron, especially when they start going at it, because they usually have topics that are differences of opinions.
Hmm.
Fucking amazing. It is an amazing show. Well worth watching if you get the time to sit down and watch it.
Huh.
But yeah, it's their newest one, I think. And then they started putting Hacker Valley Studio. They're actually bringing people in live as opposed to doing recordings. So that's going to be amazing also coming up. I do want to say, though, if you could give any advice to newcomers that want to do content creation but don't know where to start, don't know what to do, but they want to make a difference. They want to make a name for, or at least get recognized. Not necessarily make a difference. It's really hard in this industry. But just kind of get recognized and get seen. What would you say to them?
Hmm. That's a good question. So, I guess part of it I'm trying to figure out myself, to be quite honest. But you know, what I do that tends to work is when I don't know what to talk about, or you know what's going on, right? I try to look at like the news posts on CNN. I try to look at, you know, whatever news outlet, right? The Hill, whatever it might be. Look at anything that might be security related, form an opinion on it, something that you actually believe in, and post it on LinkedIn, right? And continuously build that LinkedIn network so that it gets seen by more people. And, you know, really try to encourage the feedback, the interactions is the word that I'm looking for. Um, you know, on those posts, and get everyone else's opinion. Start that conversation and actively, you know, respond to everyone. You know, it's when you get bigger, right? Like 100,000 people, and you got like 30,000 comments. It's obviously going to be unscalable for you to respond to every single one, right? Because you won't be posting any content then if you're responding to all of that. But you know, you got to start small. You got to start somewhere, and just start looking at the trending topics, even on Twitter. You know, go on Twitter if you see something with like, you know, I love Stuxnet, right? I could read the 0 Day book all the time, right? If you see Stuxnet on Twitter, maybe go post something about Stuxnet. You know, like that will drive more attention. That should encourage more people to actually respond and interact with your post.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's huge is, it's not necessarily about coming out with original content, just coming out with your own opinion on things and how you see
Mm,
things and um how you see that the way they're wording it. So if you read an article, whether it's from crap, I can't think of it now. Shit. The I can't think of the hacker. There's a hacker website out there that literally is just all articles. That's all it is about different
mm,
cybersecurity news. Um, but if you see an article, read the entire thing. I beg of you, read the entire thing and give your opinion. We're not saying it's right or wrong. And if somebody, here's the thing, and I will say this to everybody in chat, everybody that watches this, you are my warriors. Tag me in that post, because here's the thing about it. I will defend anybody that trashes you and not actually discusses the opinion you have presented.
mm.
There is a big difference, and people are afraid to post because of how much vitriol comes across social media these days. Look, I get it too. Don't worry about it. I got your back any day of the week. Post whatever you want. And as long as you come with a valid opinion, I myself, Kev Tech, Mike Miller, Chris Cochran, fucking you name it. If you tag any one of us, that shit won't happen.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I feel like figuring out where your audience is also important. I'll post something on Reddit every once in a while, like maybe on the cybersecurity Reddit, and I'll just get torn to pieces for no reason, just because someone likes to argue or they're due for an argument that day, right? Like, and so I just stopped posting on Reddit. I'll post on LinkedIn the exact same thing, and I'll get a totally different feedback, totally different response from everyone, much more positive. And I think there's some boundaries with that too, right? Like I I've seen some people, get commented like, "Hey, this probably doesn't belong on LinkedIn and whatnot," which, I didn't disagree with them. So again, know your audience and know where to post.
Yeah, and so I got a question here, and I don't know. Hey, Sarn AR, is that for me or for Joe? Please let me know before I post it. I need to know who that's for. But Alana said right. LinkedIn is pretty civil for the most part, and she's right. It is until you get off the topic of cybersecurity. If you start going political or divisive topics, that's when it gets toxic.
Yeah.
But if you stick to cybersecurity, give your opinion on a situation, they normally don't get toxic. It's normally, hey, I disagree because of this, this, and this. That's not to say certain individuals won't get certain trolls that say fucked up shit. Even to me, it happens. But I think, generally speaking, in our community, we try to keep the elitism and the bullshit to a minimum. And we do get a lot of good people that will comment and provide constructive feedback that will either change your opinion or, kind of sway things to where maybe it brings up a dialogue, plain and simple.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's a really good way of looking at it and viewing it. I think that's the way that I try to approach it as well.
Yeah. So I do have a question here. It's RNAR. He goes by Infinite Improbability AI on YouTube. That's my boy. He's been on the show before. Love him. Great guy. He can be an asshole. Don't get me wrong. I was in the military with this motherfucker. He can be an asshole. But so he says, "Is there a viewer you're proud of?" I'm gonna go with viewer or guest, and we'll start with you, Joe. Is there a viewer or guest you're proud of, such as a viewer who told you they got a promotion thanks to the stuff they learned from your content?
Um, I wouldn't say a very specific viewer, right? But every once in a while, at least once every couple weeks, I have someone, reach out and say, "Hey, thanks for this episode. Like this episode gave me the guidance that I was looking for, gave me the advice that I needed. You're putting out really good, high quality content." And honestly, like, sometimes it comes when I'm thinking of stopping the podcast. Maybe this podcast is going to go nowhere, right? I'm just wasting my time. And then I get someone, out of the blue that reaches out and says, "Hey, thanks for this. Like, this was really valuable." It's those kind of comments that really just turn everything around for me, right? Because if I could just hear that one person thought the content was helpful, even halfway helpful, it's like, oh, okay, I'm making somewhat of a difference, right? Like I may not be making a difference in millions of lives, but maybe a couple, that
Yeah,
might be helping someone. Because it's hard when you're going through hard times because you feel like you're the only one that's going through them, or it's hard when you're having difficulties navigating cybersecurity or trying to get into cybersecurity because you think you're the only one that's going through it or that has ever experienced this. And I'm on there to tell you, like, no, it took me 2.5 years to get into cybersecurity, of actively applying, actively training, getting certs, like really pushing the envelope of what I can do without getting fired at my current company to get into security. I've been there, and I try to encourage people and let them know, like, hey, there is a route for a path forward for you.
yeah, definitely. And I got to agree. For me, there's no viewer or guest that I can say I'm more or less proud of. I have seen people be on this show, and honestly, their channels, their content, the way they carried themselves after being on here, sent them to the moon. and they have literally been doing amazing things ever since they've been on this show. That's not a knock against me or a knock against them and what they were before. It was just that they found their confidence and were able to do things differently than me that made them better. And I'm all for that. Hey, you do you, boo boo. Like if you have a way of doing things and want to do things a certain way and it makes you, more visible on LinkedIn or YouTube or social media in any way, shape, or form, and it gets you a job, that's what matters. What matters to me is how you carry yourself. And so I can't say I'm any more or less proud of anybody. To me, every guest I've had on this show and anyone that interacts with me, whether or not they're in security, I call them my warriors. I call them my family. They are people that hands down I know I trust. And if you look at Andrea Myler, James Driscoll, Ms. Tarver, Sarn AR, Kev Tech, Cyber Dancer Danny, you know, uh, Kerry, I can't pronounce his last name. He'll, I don't think he'll kill me, but Kerry, amazing guy, and all these other people, Javier Santos, who's been on the show. All these people are doing great things for the industry, great things for people in general and humanity, and I think that needs to be looked upon. And I'm sure Joe, you can agree that in this career field, I can teach you technical skills if you have the passion to learn it. It's that passion and that drive and those personal skills that I can't necessarily teach you. I can't give that to you.
Yeah, yeah, that's 100% true. Every once in a while I get someone that, tries to kind of have me convince them to get into security. And rather than convince them to get into security, I try to convince them to not get into security, right? Because security is so damn hard. I mean, it is freaking difficult. From the
Hmm.
day that you start at that company, no matter where you are, basically, you're public enemy number one
Yep.
for at least one team in that company that you don't know them, you've never interacted with them. They just know that you're on security and they hate you for it, because you're making their life harder. And it's not going to get any easier, to be honest. And so, that struggle alone, just with that right there, is difficult for a lot of people to take in and navigate and fully understand and comprehend, right? Because someone dislikes you just because you're on a certain team, which is really dumb, in my opinion. Whenever you're in a company, you should obviously be working as a team. You should be working together. I shouldn't be hearing, "Oh, I'm going to go to your manager because you're telling me to do things that are too difficult."
Karen,
It's like,
Karen.
all
Oh,
right,
oh, oh,
well, I'll
sorry about
write the email for you, but you got to have that mentality. It's more about the passion and the drive of someone than it is what they know. I'll take someone with passion and drive over any day that
that.
has every cert in the world, right? Like I could teach all the other stuff. Whatever you want to learn, we can teach you,
Yep.
right? But if you don't want to learn it, well, you're not going to learn it.
That's the big thing for me is security is business enablement. Unfortunately, we have gotten a bad name because of
Yeah.
when it was first brought around. When companies first brought in security, security was like, fuck you, Pat, shut down your systems, reboot them, do all this, block all this shit. No, you're not allowed to install this software. We're not going to mitigate it. You're just not going to do it. And it put a bad taste in everybody's mouth.
Yeah.
And so now we're trying to change that mindset. Security is an investment in your future. Security isn't necessarily a necessity. I mean, it is a necessity, but that's not what you're trying to get across. You're trying to get across that security benefits your company for these reasons, and it'll save you X amount of dollars. And unfortunately, us in security are very bad, very, very bad at being able to articulate that information. That is where your CISOs and your security directors come in. Or, I don't know, Security Unfiltered podcast, who will actually instruct you on a lot of important shit. So if you're not following him, please go follow him because it's an absolute necessity that you follow and listen to Security Unfiltered podcast. And I'll just be honest, my audio form is behind probably like 8 episodes. I don't know. So YouTube is the best place to find this show. Oh man. But
It,
yeah, I agree. I agree completely.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's something that's often overlooked.
Yeah, I think, you know, so I'm starting a new job. I am a practice manager of security engineering. And just like before, we're not going to put the company out there because that's not what I do. Unless they pay me to promote them, that shit don't happen. You want to figure it out, you'll find out on, eventually when I switch it. When I quit being lazy. But so I'm finally a manager, finally in one of those roles. Me personally, if I need people, especially if I have the ability to hire juniors, I'm taking the one that shows the passion. I'm taking a Ms. Tarver. I'm taking an Andrea Myler. I'm taking a Griffin Infosec. I'm taking fuck that SRNAR does all data science. I don't need that shit right now. I'll find you a role, homie, but it ain't me. Uh, I love fucking with them. But yeah, I will bring these people in. Why? Because they showed their passion by coming onto a show that literally they've never been in an enterprise to know the job. They've been studying, learning, researching, and showing what they can do. That's what matters to me.
Yeah. That's actually what got me my current role. My manager told me, he's like, "You know what separated you from everyone else?" I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Your podcast. You're obviously passionate about security. If you have a podcast that talks about cybersecurity, it's like, who the hell does that?" I'm like, "Oh, I do."
Joe, wait,
Yeah.
Joe does it.
Right. Right.
So, all right. So we're past the top of the hour. We can go however long I fucking want, except for the fact that my wife is kind of dealing with some shit right now, so I got to go deal with the kids. So I do want to say this. Hold on. You don't talk about companies unless they sponsor you, unless it's Yingling. No. Time out. Today I had Broken Skull IPA, well, double IPA. So if you can get El Segunda Brewing Company or Broken Skull to support this show, I'll do them or Yingling, either one. As long as they start sponsoring, we're good to go. But Joe, I want some final words. And I want this to be geared towards newcomers. Now, you've been in the industry for a while. The show was technically supposed to be about content creation. We kind of got off on a bunch of rants, so we're not going to say that is exactly what it was about. So whether it's content creation, social networking, in general, whatever what is, if you have advice to give anybody trying to break into cybersecurity, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, keep going. There's a lot of times early on when I wanted to quit, specifically when I was interviewing for at least two places a day, literally two places a day, for about 2.5 years, actually. I wanted to give up. I wanted to quit. I thought it would never happen. I figured I wouldn't learn enough stuff to actually get the job and make the right connections. Just keep going. You know, if someone says no to you, it doesn't mean anything. All you need is one yes, and that'll change everything. So if you can convince someone to say yes one time, that's all that you need to do. You got to just have that mentality. Um, and that leads that comes from passion, right? Like you're gonna get that mentality from your passion, from your drive to learn. When people ask you what you're learning, show me an example of your drive. You could be like, I have this lab at home that is set up with Kelly Linux. I just pen tested this 2016 box, and I went and did some exploit on it. And you can go and deep dive into it, right? That's passion. That is where you need to be. That's how you get better.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. And that's, you know, I bring up Andrea a lot. And it's because ever since she's been on this show, ever since I found her and Ms. Tarver, Griffin has always been tuning in. Because he's Griffin Infosec on YouTube and Twitter, I tend to neglect his real name on LinkedIn. Not gonna lie. Homie, I'm sorry. I love you. I just tend to neglect it because you're Griffin Infosec and then you have your real name. But Andrea and Ms. Tarver and so many others, um, you know, and Griffin and Sarn AR and Bill Eck, even who's now in chat. I see so much passion come from them. I do everything I can. I tag them in my posts. Alana, and I can't pronounce her last name. I swear she's been on this show and she told me how to pronounce her last name. I can't do it. But you know, another amazing person I try to tag. And the reason for this is they have such a passion and love for the field. They have such a passion and love for the industry. I want these people seen. I want them found. I want them known. I will tag them in every post. Not because I want them necessarily to see it, but because I want other people to see that they're tagged. Because we are so hell bent on tagging the biggest damn names. We refuse to tag those that are trying to make a name.
Yeah.
You've already made your name. You've already made your space. You already are here. Start tagging the people that are trying to find a position, trying to find a space within industry. That's the biggest thing. So, to everybody out there, and yes, Kev Tech, you damn straight I tag you too, because you have 40-some thousand followers on YouTube and, LinkedIn, who the hell knows. I do. I tag big and small because I want them all to be seen. I'm a lover. All right. I love everybody. So, otherwise, I love everybody out there. Joe, please hang around backstage as we go off air. We'll have some further conversations. If you want to support this show, you can check the description on YouTube. Guess what? It's all there. And when I eventually post this on podcast, it'll be there also. You can buy merchandise like this amazing t-shirt or hoodie. The t-shirt is the only one with words on the back. Or I've got some other amazing shit out there. So go find it because I do have, and Kev, Sarn AR, this is for you. I have an amazing podcast called Walk With Me that is now on YouTube and all of your major audio podcast platforms. So please go check that out as well. And if you're not subscribed, if you have not come back to comment, please, when this goes off the air, come back, leave your comments. I see 15 people right now watching. Come to YouTube and leave a damn comment. Otherwise, take care. Have a great weekend. Have an amazing Freya's Day. And I will see you all next time.